New York City, spring of 1867. Picture this, a line of well-dressed families stretches down Morningside Avenue, waiting outside iron gates that tower 15 feet high. Children tug at their mothers' skirts.
No,
Gentlemen
stay
check
back!
pocket watches.
You cannot hide.
Everyone's
Give me those
excited, the
papers.
kind of excitement
Never! You won't
you see
take them!
outside a theater on opening night.
Stay close,
But
dears.
this isn't a
Yes,
theater,
Mama.
this is Bloomingdale
Forward
Asylum
now.
for the insane.
Of course.
And these people, these respectable citizens of America's greatest city, have paid 25 cents each for the privilege of watching human beings suffer. Inside those gates, in a building that rivals the finest hotels in Manhattan, 400 men and women are caged like animals. Some scream, some weep, some simply stare at the walls, their minds shattered by treatments that would make medieval torturers blush. And every Wednesday and Saturday, for 3 hours each afternoon, the asylum opens its doors to anyone with a quarter and a curiosity about madness. They call it educational. They call it therapeutic, for the patients a chance to interact with normal society. They're lying. It's a show, pure and simple, and business is booming. On this particular Saturday, April 13th, 1867, approximately 200 visitors shuffle through the men's wards. They point. They whisper. Some of them laugh. In Ward C, the violent ward they call it, a man sits motionless on a wooden bench. He's 52 years old, though he looks 70. His hair, once thick and black, has gone gray and thin. His hands, calloused from 3 decades of loading cargo ships, shake with a tremor he can't control. His name is Declan Brennan, and he's been sitting on this bench in this room for 397 days. He knows the exact count because counting is the only thing that keeps him sane. A woman in a purple dress, expensive silk, Declan notices the kind his wife Maeve could never afford, stops in front of him. She's brought her 2 daughters, maybe 8 and 10 years old, all 3 of them staring at Declan like he's an exhibit in a museum. "Mama," the younger girl whispers, "why is that man so dirty?" The woman doesn't lower her voice when she answers. Why would she? He's just a lunatic. Probably can't even understand English anymore. The attendants bathe them once a week, darling, but some of them fight it. They're not like us. Declan wants to tell her that he showered every morning for 34 years before coming to work at the Manhattan docks, that he taught his 3 children to wash behind their ears and say their prayers before bed, that the only reason he's dirty now is because the asylum provides 1 bucket of cold water per week for 30 men to share. But he doesn't speak. He learned that lesson in his first month here. Speaking makes it worse. Speaking proves you're agitated, delusional, dangerous. Speaking gets you restrained. So Declan sits and counts. 397 days since they took him from his family. 397 days since he loaded his last cargo crate. 397 days since freedom. The woman in purple moves on to the next exhibit, a man named William, who rocks back and forth and mutters to himself in Dutch. The visitors find him fascinating. Declan goes back to counting. But here's what you need to understand. Declan Brennan isn't insane. He never was. His crime, he got old, he got injured, and he made the mistake of complaining when his employer tried to fire him without compensation after 34 years of service. That's it. That's the whole story. 2 signatures on a commitment form. One from a doctor who examined him for 7 minutes. One from a magistrate who processed the paperwork in 3, and Declan Brennan ceased to exist as a free man. Now imagine this happening to you. You're 65 years old reading this story, maybe sitting in your living room or listening while you drive. You've worked your whole life, paid your taxes, raised your kids, did everything right, and then one day you become inconvenient. Too expensive to keep around, too broken to be useful anymore. So someone signs some papers and you disappear. Think it can't happen. It already did. To thousands of men just like you. Men who built America with their hands and their backs and their sacrifice. This is their story. This is Declan's story. And before it's over, you're going to understand exactly how a promise became a prison and why the ghosts of that betrayal still haunt us today. Let's go back before the asylum. Back when Declan still believed in the American dream. 1832, County Cork, Ireland. Declan is 17 years old, standing on a dock with everything he owns tied up in a canvas sack. His mother is crying. His father, a man whose back is permanently bent from 30 years of tenant farming on land he'll never own, grips Declan's shoulder. "America," his father says. The word comes out like a prayer. They say a man can make something of himself there. They say hard work matters. Declan nods. He's heard the stories too. Streets paved with gold, land for the taking, opportunity. The truth, of course, is messier, but it's also not entirely a lie. Declan arrives in New York Harbor on a coffin ship. That's what they call the immigrant vessels because so many passengers die on the crossing. He survives. Barely. Loses 15 pounds. Watches 3 children and an old woman get buried at sea. But he survives. And for the first few years, America keeps its promise. Declan finds work on the Manhattan docks. The pay is brutal, $9 a week for 12-hour days of loading and unloading cargo ships. The work destroys men's bodies, hernias, broken bones, crushed hands, back injuries that never heal. But it's honest work, and it pays. In 1838, Declan meets Maeve O'Sullivan at a church social. She's 19, fresh off the boat herself, working as a seamstress in a textile factory. They court for 6 months. Declan too shy to do more than hold her hand and marry in a ceremony that cost them $3 total. They're happy. Poor but happy. The children come Cormac in 1840, Bridget in 1843, Sean in 1848. Declan keeps loading ships. Year after year, crate after crate. His hands become leather. His shoulders broaden. His back develops a permanent ache that he learns to ignore. But he's building something. A life. A family. A future. And then everything changes. 1861. Fort Sumter. The country tears itself apart. Declan is 46 years old, too old for the draft technically, but the Union Army needs bodies and the 69th Infantry, New York's Fighting Irish, is recruiting. Here's the thing, Declan doesn't give a damn about states' rights or constitutional theory. But he understands something simpler. The Union is offering a signing bonus of $100. That's more than 2 months' wages. Enough to pay off debts. Enough to make sure Maeve and the kids have something if he doesn't come back. And beyond the money, there's something else. For 29 years, Declan has been that Irish immigrant. People spit when he walks by. Shopkeepers watch him like he's going to steal. Newspapers run cartoons showing Irishmen as ape-like drunks. But if he fights, if he bleeds for this country, maybe then they'll see him as American. So Declan enlists. He serves for 2 years, 1861 to 1863. Sees action at Bull Run, Antietam, Fredericksburg. The worst is Gettysburg, July 1863. On the 3rd day of battle, a Confederate artillery shell explodes 20 feet from Declan's position. Shrapnel tears through his left leg, not enough to amputate, but enough to leave fragments of metal buried in the muscle that doctors can't fully remove. He also develops what the Army surgeons call soldier's heart. Nightmares, violent tremors, and inability to hear loud noises without dropping to the ground in panic. We have a different name for it now. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. But in 1863, they just call you broken. Declan gets an honorable discharge and a certificate for a pension, $30 per month, for service-connected disability. Sounds good, right? Wait for it. He returns to the docks in late '63. His old supervisor takes him back, but the work is harder now. Declan's leg never heals properly. Cold weather makes it seize up. Heavy lifting causes shooting pains that drop him to his knees. But he pushes through, because that's what men do. That's what workers do. You push through. For 3 more years, Declan loads cargo, slower than before, in constant pain. But he shows up every day, rain or shine, summer heat or winter ice. And then comes March of 1866. Declan is 51 years old. He's been working the docks for 34 years. His body is wrecked, chronic back pain, arthritis in both hands, the leg injury that never fully healed, and lungs damaged from years of breathing in coal dust and sea air. His supervisor, a man named Edmund Caldwell, calls him into the office. Brennan, Caldwell says, not looking up from his paperwork, "We're making some changes, bringing in younger men. You understand." Declan feels his stomach drop. "You're firing me, letting you go, with our gratitude for your years of service." Gratitude, Declan's voice rises despite himself. "I've given you 34 years. I've worked through injuries that would have killed lesser men, and you're throwing me out with nothing." Caldwell finally looks up. His expression is cold. "Watch your tone, Brennan. I don't appreciate being spoken to that way. I don't appreciate being disposed of like garbage." Declan slams his fist on the desk. Not hard, just enough to make the inkwell rattle. That's his mistake. That moment and that single gesture of frustration from a man who sacrificed everything becomes his crime. Caldwell stands up slowly. "You're clearly unwell, Brennan. Violent, unstable. I think you need medical attention. I need my job. I need to feed my family. This conversation is over. Security will escort you out." 2 dock workers, men Declan has worked alongside for years, grab his arms and march him through the warehouse. Past crates he's loaded. past ships he's unloaded, past 34 years of labor that suddenly mean nothing. They dump him on the street. Declan walks home in a daze. How does he tell Maeve? How does he explain to Cormac, 26, now married with a baby on the way, that his father has failed? But when he arrives at their tenement apartment, two men are waiting. One is Dr. Howard Blackwell, physician, well-dressed, carrying a leather bag. The other is a police officer. Mr. Brennan, Dr. Blackwell says smoothly, your employer has expressed concern about your mental state. I'm here to conduct an evaluation. I don't need an evaluation. I need my job back. I understand you've been experiencing violent outbursts, aggression toward authority figures. I got angry. That's not a crime. Dr. Blackwell makes a note in a small journal. Elevated emotional response. Inability to regulate affect. The examination lasts 7 minutes. Blackwell asks questions designed to trap. Do you hear voices? Do you feel that people are conspiring against you? Have you had thoughts of harming yourself or others? Declan answers honestly. No to the voices. Yes, he feels people are conspiring because they literally are. And no, he hasn't thought about harming anyone except maybe Edmund Caldwell. And that's just normal anger, not actual intent. Blackwell writes it all down, spins it. 20 minutes later, Dr. Blackwell and Officer Murphy escort Declan to a magistrate's office. The magistrate, a man Declan has never met, reviews the paperwork for approximately 3 minutes. Mr. Brennan, based on Dr. Blackwell's evaluation and your employer's testimony, I'm committing you to Bloomingdale Asylum for treatment of acute melancholia with violent tendencies. Wait, what? No, I'm not insane. The doctor has determined. The doctor talked to me for 7 minutes. The magistrate bangs his gavel. Mr. Brennan, your agitation only confirms the diagnosis. Officers take him into custody. Declan fights. Not violently, he's not stupid, but he resists, tries to explain, tries to make them understand. It doesn't matter. By sunset on March 15th, 1866, Declan Brennan is in a wagon heading north to Bloomingdale Asylum. He'll spend the next year and 10 months there. But here's the part that should make you furious. Declan's not alone. Between 1850 and 1880, New York State's asylum population grows by 927%. 927%. That's not a gradual increase. That's an explosion. And who fills these asylums? Working-age men make up 41% of the total population. Of those men, 23% are veterans. Most of the rest are laborers, dock workers, factory workers, miners, railroad men. The stated causes of insanity on commitment forms read like a catalog of normal life experiences. Intemperance, 34%. Translation, they drank to cope with injuries and were labeled alcoholics. Business anxiety, 18%. Translation, they lost their jobs and got depressed. Soldier's heart, 12%. Translation, PTSD from war. Constitutional weakness, 15%. Translation, they got old or disabled. Unknown, 21%. Translation, families were too ashamed to admit they just couldn't afford to keep the person around. Here's what scholars won't tell you. In polite company, the asylum system wasn't designed to heal anyone. The system doesn't fail by accident. It succeeds at exactly what it was designed to do: make inconvenient people disappear. Between 1840 and 1880, America industrialized faster than any nation in human history. Factories needed young, able bodies, strong backs, quick hands, unbroken spirits. What happened to the old ones? The injured, the inconvenient, they disappeared. And the beautiful part, if you're a heartless capitalist anyway, is that it was all legal, all respectable, all wrapped in the language of medicine and charity. 2 signatures. That's all it took. One from a doctor, one from a magistrate. No trial, no jury, no appeal. Your employer could have you declared insane and committed indefinitely, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing you could do to stop it. Now think about what Declan's commitment cost. Over his working life, 34 years at $9 per week, Declan contributed approximately $16,000 to New York's economy. In today's money, adjusted for inflation and purchasing power, that's roughly $500,000. $500,000 of labor, of productivity, of building America's commercial infrastructure. The asylum cost $2 per week to house him. Over 22 months, that's $192 in public funds. But here's the kicker. Edmund Caldwell, the supervisor who fired Declan, he replaced Declan with a 22-year-old immigrant willing to work for $6 a week, saved $3 per week by disposing of Declan. Over 22 months, Caldwell's company pocketed $286 in savings. Declan's labor built America. His disposal was just good business. And if you think this is ancient history that doesn't matter anymore, keep listening. Bloomingdale Asylum sits on a hill overlooking the Hudson River. From a distance, it looks almost beautiful. Gothic architecture, manicured lawns, trees lining a long gravel driveway. Up close, you notice the details. The windows on the lower floors have iron bars. The garden walls are topped with broken glass. The main entrance has a guard station. The asylum masquerades as a hospital, but the iron bars and guard stations tell a different story. This is a fortress designed to keep people in, not help them heal. Declan's first night is a nightmare he'll never fully remember and never completely forget. They strip him naked in a room with no heat. March in New York, still winter, really. He can see his breath. A matron built like a longshoreman inspects him for lice, finds none, which seems to disappoint her. She would have enjoyed the delousing process. Then comes the bath. They call it hydrotherapy. Declan will later learn that fancy medical term. But on this night, all he knows is that 3 attendants grab him. He's too shocked to resist effectively and drag him to a wooden tub filled with water. Ice water. They dump him in, hold him under, not long enough to drown, but long enough to panic. When they yank him up, gasping and shaking, one of them pours a bucket of equally frigid water over his head. Shocks the system, an attendant explains to a younger colleague, rebalances the humors. They repeat this process 3 times. By the end, Declan can't feel his fingers. His lips have gone blue. His lungs feel frozen. They throw a canvas smock at him, rough fabric, no buttons, no undergarments, and march him to Ward C. Ward C is a long room with a low ceiling. 30 iron beds line the walls, 15 per side. The gap between beds is maybe 2 feet. Declan can literally reach out and touch the men sleeping on either side of him. The smell hits him first. Unwashed bodies, chamber pots that haven't been emptied. Sickness, despair. The sounds come next. Someone is weeping. Another man mutters to himself in a language Declan doesn't recognize. A third is snoring or maybe choking. Hard to tell. An attendant shoves Declan toward an empty bed. You're number 17, remember it. Attendance is at dawn. What time is dawn? The attendant laughs. When we say it is. Declan lies down on a mattress that feels like it's stuffed with straw and regret. The blanket is thin wool worn threadbare in spots. He doesn't sleep. Can't sleep. His mind races. This is a mistake. A terrible mistake. Someone will realize. Someone will come. Maeve will find a lawyer. Cormac will talk to someone important. Someone will save him. But dawn comes and no one has. A bell rings at what Declan guesses is around 5:30 in the morning. Still dark outside. Up, an attendant walks down the center aisle banging a wooden club against the iron bed frames. Up, you lazy bastards! Attendance in 5 minutes. The men shuffle to their feet, some quickly, some slowly. Declan notices that the slow ones get clubbed, not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to motivate. He stands quickly. They line up. An attendant counts them like cattle. 28. Where's 29 and 30? Another attendant checks the beds at the far end. 29 died during the night. 30's non-responsive. Dead or sleeping. Does it matter? The first attendant makes a note on his clipboard. It does for the paperwork. Check his pulse. He's breathing, just won't wake up. Then drag him out to the yard with the others. If he's not up by breakfast, he goes to isolation. Lord Declan feels a chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. This is how they talk about human beings. Like inventory, like problems to be managed. After attendance, they're marched to a communal washing area, a long trough with cold running water. 30 men, 1 trough, 5 minutes total. Declan barely gets his face wet before they're herded to the dining hall. Breakfast. The word is generous. What they receive is a bowl of gruel oatmeal mixed with water, no milk, no sugar, no salt, and a slice of bread that Declan can only describe as allegedly bread. It has the density of a brick and the flavor of sawdust. He tries to eat, forces it down. He'll learn later that some men go on hunger strikes, refuse to eat in protest. Those men don't last long. After breakfast, the day's main activity begins sitting. They're led back to Ward C and told to sit on wooden benches that line the walls. And that's it. Sit. Don't talk. Don't move. Don't do anything except sit and stare at the wall for 12 hours. Declan makes it about 90 minutes before his back starts screaming. The shrapnel wound in his leg begins to throb. His hands, used to constant motion, shake with the need to do something, anything. He shifts his weight. Number 17. An attendant appears in front of him. Did I say you could move my back? I don't care about your back. Sit still. I'm a veteran. I was injured at the club comes out of nowhere. catches Declan across the shoulders. Not hard enough to break bones, but hard enough to send a clear message. Sit. Still. Declan sits still. The hours crawl by like wounded animals. Around noon, they're given a meal that the asylum generously calls dinner. Boiled potatoes, a thin slice of meat that might be beef, but could just as easily be horse, and more of that brick bread. Then back to sitting. Declan's mind starts to fracture around hour 8, not from madness, from boredom, from the complete absence of stimulation. He starts counting. Ceiling tiles, floorboards, his own breaths. By the time they're finally allowed to lie down for the night, Declan has counted 240 ceiling tiles, approximately 3,000 breaths in one complete day of his life that he'll never get back. This is day 1, but something happens on day 4 that changes everything. During the sitting period, a new patient is brought in. The man is younger than Declan, maybe late 20s, and immediately noticeable for 2 reasons. First, he's Mexican or Spanish. Darker skin, black hair, brown eyes. Stands out in a ward full of Irish and German immigrants. Second, his left arm ends at the shoulder, clean amputation. Military work Declan recognizes immediately. The attendants shove the man onto a bench 3 spots down from Declan. Number 42, they tell him. Sit. Don't move. The young man sits. His jaw is clenched, so tight Declan can see the muscles working. That evening, during the brief window, when they're allowed to use the privy and prepare for bed, Declan manages to position himself near the young man. Veteran, Declan asks quietly. The young man's eyes snap to him, wary, calculating. Then Antietam, 62nd. Gettysburg, 69th. Something passes between them. Recognition. Brotherhood. Name's Mateo, the young man says. Mateo Torres. Declan Brennan. What did you do to end up here, Declan Brennan? Got old. Got injured. Got mouthy. You. Mateo's laugh is bitter. Punched an officer. That'll do it. He called me a greaser. Told me to show proper respect for my betters. Mateo's voice is flat, dead. I just buried 6 men from my unit. I was tired. I was angry. I was human. Being human's a crime now, apparently. They're separated before they can talk more, but something has started. An alliance. Over the next few weeks, Declan and Mateo find ways to communicate. Brief exchanges during meals. Whispered conversations after lights out. Shared looks during the endless sitting. Declan learns Mateo's full story in pieces. Born in Texas when it was still part of Mexico. Family lost everything when Texas joined the Union. Mateo grew up poor Mexican in a state that increasingly didn't want Mexicans. When the war started, he enlisted anyway. Wanted to prove something. Wanted to be seen as American. Became a sharpshooter, one of the best in his regiment. At Antietam, the bloodiest single day of the war, Mateo took a Confederate Minié ball that was meant for his colonel. Lost his arm. Saved the colonel's life. Got a Medal of Honor for it. Also got a pension, $30 per month for service-connected disability. Then in '66, almost the same story as Declan. Incident with a racist officer. Commitment papers signed. Disappeared into the asylum system. You know what the worst part is? Mateo says one night. I won a medal. Bled for this country. And they took my pension the second they declared me insane. Declan sits up. What do you mean they took it? To get your pension, you have to be certified as mentally sound. Can't be crazy and deserving of military benefits. So my family had to choose keep me in here or get me released and lose the pension money. Declan can't even find words. That's theft. That's America. The next morning, Declan starts paying attention differently. He starts counting again, but this time he's counting men. How many in Ward C are around his age? How many have the bearing of soldiers? How many have war injuries? The answer shakes him. At least 15 out of 30 are veterans. 15 men who served their country, got broken in the process, and were rewarded with imprisonment. Declan thinks about the math. If Ward C, just one ward in one asylum, has 15 veterans, how many are in the whole institution? How many across New York, across America? And somewhere in his grief and rage and growing understanding, Declan makes a decision. He's going to survive this. Not just survive, document it. Because if he ever gets out, someone needs to know what happened here. Someone needs to tell the truth. 3 months into his imprisonment, Declan gets his first small victory. There's an attendant named Silas Kane. Older guy, early 60s, gray beard, walks with a limp. Unlike the others, Kane doesn't seem to enjoy the cruelty. He does his job, enforces the rules, but there's something different in his eyes. Declan takes a risk. During a rare moment when they're alone, Declan's been sent to fetch water buckets. Kane is supervising. Declan speaks. You were Army. Kane stops, looks at Declan hard. What makes you say that? The way you walk. The way you scan rooms. The way you give orders. Declan pauses. Also, you've got a scar on your neck that looks like a bayonet wound. Kane's hand unconsciously touches the scar. Shiloh, 62. Gettysburg, 63. They stand there, two soldiers in a place that has nothing to do with battlefields and everything to do with a different kind of war. Mr. Kane, Declan says carefully, I can't sit on those benches for 12 hours. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm a working man. I need to work. Kane is quiet for a long moment. Then, can you handle a hammer? I loaded ships for 34 years. I think I can manage a hammer. The next day, Kane gets Declan assigned to the carpentry shop. 2 hours a day, building and repairing furniture for the asylum. It's not freedom, but it's something. Declan starts teaching Mateo woodworking during their shop time. Mateo is skeptical at first, hard to do carpentry with one more arm, but Declan shows him adaptations. Techniques, ways to brace wood with your body while you saw. Why are you helping me? Mateo asks one afternoon. Declan doesn't look up from the chair leg he's sanding. Because we're soldiers, and soldiers don't leave their unit behind. That night, back in Ward C, a third man approaches them during the evening privy time. He's old, has to be at least 65, completely deaf based on the way he doesn't respond to sounds. But his eyes are sharp and he's been watching Declan and Mateo for weeks. The old man signs something with his hands. Declan shakes his head. He doesn't know sign language. The old man pulls out a stub of pencil and a scrap of paper. Writes Ezekiel Miller, Shiloh. You two are planning something. Declan and Mateo exchange looks. Declan takes the pencil. Writes back, not planning, just surviving. Ezekiel reads it, smiles. Writes, surviving is planning. Count me in. And just like that, they're three. Three veterans. Three men who built America and fought for it and were discarded by it. Three men who are about to become very dangerous to a system that depends on silence. But they don't know that yet. Right now, in the spring of 1867, they're just trying to make it through another day of sitting on benches and eating terrible food and being treated like animals. Right now, they still believe that someone, maybe a lawyer, maybe a politician, maybe just someone with a conscience will notice what's happening and put a stop to it. Right now, they still have hope. That hope will be tested soon enough. But for now, it's enough to keep them breathing. Summer arrives at Bloomingdale like a punishment from God. The asylum wasn't built for heat. Stone walls that trap cold in winter trap heat in summer. The upper floors where the violent and chronic cases are housed become ovens. Men sleep on top of their blankets, gasping for air that feels like breathing soup. In Ward C, the smell becomes unbearable. 30 unwashed bodies. Chamber pots that don't get emptied often enough. The sour-sweet stench of illness. Declan has been here 10 months now. 300 days, give or take. He's stopped expecting rescue. Maeve hasn't visited, probably can't afford the trolley fare out here, or maybe they're not allowing visitors. He wouldn't know. Nobody tells the patients anything, but something is changing in the asylum. Declan can feel it. There are more men now. Ward C is overcrowded. They've added extra beds, cramming them into spaces that barely fit. Where there used to be 2 feet between beds, now there's 6 inches. Men sleep elbow to elbow. The food portions are getting smaller. The bread is getting harder. The gruel is getting thinner. And the staff, they're getting meaner. Silas Kane pulls Declan aside one afternoon in the carpentry shop. His face is grim. Budget got cut, Kane says quietly, pretending to inspect Declan's work on a table leg. 30% across the board. Declan keeps sanding, doesn't look up. Learn that skill, how to have a conversation without appearing to have one. War's expensive, Declan says. Guess we're not the priority anymore. It's worse than that. Kane glances toward the door, making sure they're alone. The Board of Governors is talking about bringing in a new medical director, someone who will modernize operations. What's wrong with Dr. Whitmore? He costs money, believes in that moral treatment nonsense, individual attention, therapeutic work, all that bleeding heart Quaker bullshit. Declan finally looks up. You don't believe in it. I believe in it, but I'm not the one making decisions. The people who run this place, they believe in ledgers. And the ledger says, we're spending too much keeping lunatics comfortable. We're not lunatics. I know that, you know that. Doesn't matter what we know. That conversation happens in June of 1867. By September, Dr. Marcus Whitmore is gone. The new medical director arrives on a Tuesday morning. His name is Dr. Ambrose Blackwell, no relation to the doctor. Howard Blackwell, who committed Declan. Though the coincidence makes Declan's skin crawl. Dr. Ambrose Blackwell is 52 years old, Yale-educated, and has the kind of face that looks like it's never smiled in its life. Cold eyes, thin lips, the posture of a man who measures everything and finds most of it wanting. His first act as director mandatory staff meeting. Silas Kane tells Declan about it later, word for word. Blackwell stood at the front of the room, hands clasped behind his back, and delivered what he called his philosophy of care. Gentlemen, Blackwell began, this institution has been operating under a delusion. The delusion that insanity is curable through kindness, that madmen respond to gentle treatment and moral persuasion. He paused. Let that sink in. I am here to tell you that this approach is not only ineffective, it is dangerous. These men are not patients. They are inmates. They are here because society cannot function with them in it. Our job is not to heal them. Our job is to contain them. Someone Kane didn't say who asked about the therapeutic work programs, the carpentry shop, the garden assignments. Blackwell's response was immediate. Discontinued, effective immediately. These men will sit in their wards. They will be silent. They will be still. Discipline is the only medicine that works for a disordered mind. Kane said you could feel the room go cold. In the veterans ward, another attendant asked, Dr. Whitmore set up special accommodations. There will be no special accommodations. Blackwell's voice was ice. A madman is a madman. I don't care if he fought at Gettysburg or Shiloh or Bull Run. Mental deficiency negates military service. All patients will be housed according to severity of condition, not their former professions. The veterans ward, the one place in the asylum where men like Declan and Mateo could maintain some shred of dignity, was dissolved that afternoon. Declan, Mateo, and Ezekiel are separated. Declan stays in Ward C. Mateo gets moved to Ward B, supposedly for less violent cases, though the real reason is that someone on staff doesn't like having a Mexican in Ward C. Ezekiel gets sent to the 4th floor where they put the elderly chronic cases who are expected to die quietly. That night, Declan lies on his bed, now crammed so close to the next one, that he can hear the man beside him breathing and feels something break inside his chest. It's not despair. Not exactly. It's the death of hope. He's been telling himself for 10 months that this is temporary, that someone will figure out the mistake, that the system will correct itself. But there is no mistake. There is no correction coming. The system doesn't fail by accident. It succeeds at exactly what it was designed to do, make inconvenient people disappear. And Declan Brennan, dock worker, veteran father, husband, is going to die here, unless he does something about it. The restraints return in October. Dr. Blackwell's second major policy change, reinstatement of mechanical restraints for violent and uncooperative patients, which in practice means anyone who complains. Declan sees it happen to a man named Patrick O'Reilly first. Patrick's crime: he asked an attendant why the portions at breakfast had gotten smaller. That's it. That's the whole offense. 2 attendants grab Patrick, strap his arms behind his back with leather restraints, buckle them so tight that Patrick's hands start turning purple within minutes. Then they seat him in what they call the quieting chair, a wooden chair with built-in restraints for arms, legs, chest, and neck. Once you're strapped in, you can't move anything except your eyes. Patrick sits there for 8 hours. No food, no water, no bathroom breaks. When they finally release him, Patrick can't feel his hands. Takes him 2 days to regain full sensation. The message is clear: obedience or suffering. Most men choose obedience, but not all. 3 weeks after the restraints policy begins, Declan witnesses something that will haunt him for the rest of his life. It's a Sunday morning. The wards are quieter on Sundays, fewer attendants on duty, no visitors allowed, just the patients and the silence. Declan hears shouting from the far end of Ward C. Male voices, but he can't make out the words. Then footsteps. Running. Heavy and urgent. 4 attendants appear, dragging a man between them. The man is fighting, not violently, just desperately, trying to pull away. Please, the man is saying. Please, I didn't mean, I'm sorry. Declan recognizes him, Thomas Ashford, 40-something, former railroad worker. Been here about 6 months, quiet guy. Never causes trouble. The attendants throw Thomas onto his bed. 3 hold him down while the 4th produces leather straps. What did he do? Someone whispers. Tried to mail a letter, an attendant says. Found it hidden in his mattress. Against the rules. They strap Thomas spread eagle to the bed frame. Arms and legs pulled wide. Can't move. Can barely breathe. Then the attendant in charge, a man named Grady, who seems to genuinely enjoy his work, produces something that makes Declan's stomach turn. A leather gag. They force it into Thomas's mouth. Strap it behind his head. You want to speak out of turn, Grady says conversationally. You don't speak at all. They leave Thomas like that, strapped down, gagged, displayed for everyone in the ward to see. The message is even clearer now, silencer this. Thomas stays restrained for 16 hours. By the time they release him, he's soiled himself. He's weeping. He's broken. Declan watches all of this from his bed, 15 feet away, and feels a rage so pure it nearly chokes him. But he doesn't move, doesn't protest, doesn't do anything except lie there and breathe. The asylum is becoming a tomb for the living, and winter hasn't even arrived yet. November 1867 brings the first snow. It also brings Declan's first visitor in 11 months. He's told he has someone waiting in the visiting room, a small, cold space with a table and 2 chairs bolted to the floor. The room is supervised, no privacy, every word monitored. Declan walks in and sees his son. Cormac is 27 now, looks older. There are lines around his eyes that weren't there 11 months ago. He's wearing work clothes the kind laborers wear. His hands are rough. They stare at each other for a moment. Then Cormac stands, crosses to his father, embraces him. Declan hasn't been touched with kindness in 11 months. The hug breaks something loose in his chest. He has to fight not to weep. Pa, Cormac says, his voice is thick. God, you look. I know. Declan sits. Cormac sits across from him. An attendant stands in the corner watching. Listening. Cormac lowers his voice. Ma sent money for the attendants to make sure you're treated well. Declan wants to laugh, wants to scream. The money won't make any difference. There's no treatment here, just storage, but he doesn't say that, doesn't want to worry his son more than necessary. How is she, Declan asks. How's Maeve? Cormac hesitates. Just a fraction of a second. But Declan sees it, knows his son, knows when something is wrong. She's tired, Pa, working double shifts at the textile factory. Bridget's helping too. Sean, he's 12 now, wants to quit school, find work to help out. Don't let him. But Declan's voice is sharp. He stays in school. Pa, we need the money. I don't care. He stays in school. Declan leans forward. Promise me, Cormac. Cormac nods slowly. I promise. They sit in silence for a moment. The attendant in the corner coughs. How long? Declan finally asks. How long do I have to stay here? Cormac's face crumples. They won't say. The doctors say you're still unwell, that you need more time. I'm not unwell, I never was. I know, Pa, I know. Whoosh. Cormac glances at the attendant, then back to Declan. Lowers his voice even more. I've been asking, trying to find a lawyer. But they all say the same thing. Once you're committed, it's almost impossible to get released unless the doctor signs off. And Blackwell won't sign off because he's being paid not to. The words are out before Declan can stop them. Cormac's eyes widen. What? Declan realizes his mistake. But it's too late now. And maybe it's time someone on the outside knew. The asylum gets paid by the county to house us, Declan says quietly. $2 per patient per week. The more patients they have, the more money they get. Why would they let anyone go? The attendant in the corner shifts. Declan can feel the man's attention sharpening. Cormac is staring at his father like he's seeing him for the first time. They are. Declan reaches across the table, grabs his son's hand. Cormac, listen to me. I need you to do something. Anything. Find out if other families are going through this. Other men who got committed suddenly. Other veterans who lost their pensions. Why? Because if it's just me, I'm crazy. But if it's a pattern, if there are dozens of us, hundreds, then it's not madness. It's a system. Cormac squeezes his father's hand. I'll ask around, the docks, the factories. I'll find out. Good boy. The attendant steps forward. Time's up. Cormac stands reluctantly. I'll come back, Pa. Next month, I promise. Declan nods. Can't trust himself to speak. He watches his son leave. Watches the door close. Then he's escorted back to Ward C, where 30 men sit on benches and stare at walls, and the only sound is breathing and the occasional sob someone tries to muffle. It takes 3 weeks to manage it. Ward B and Ward C share a common recreation yard, a patch of dirt 50 feet square, surrounded by brick walls topped with broken glass. Patients are allowed outside for 30 minutes twice a week, weather permitting. Declan spots Mateo in the yard during December's first outdoor period. Mateo looks worse than when they were separated. Thinner. There's a bruise on his face, fresh and purple. They can't talk openly. Attendants are watching, but they've developed a system. Work near each other. Speak quietly while pretending to do something else. Declan bends down, pretending to tie his shoe. Mateo stands nearby, facing away. You look like hell, Declan says to his shoe. Feel worse. Mateo's voice is flat. They don't like Mexicans in Ward B. Someone decided to teach me a lesson. They hurt you. Nothing I can't handle. Pause. You hear about Washington. Declan's hand still. What about him? Robert Lee Washington, freedman, former slave, was in the colored troops. I know who he is. What happened? Mateo is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks again, his voice is barely audible. He killed himself 3 nights ago. The world tilts. Declan has to grip his knee to stay steady. How bum. Hanged himself in the 4th floor privy, used his shirt. Mateo swallows hard. Left a note. What did it say? Silas Kane told me. Said Washington wrote, I survived 23 years of slavery, survived 4 years of war, but I can't survive this. I'm 44 years old. This isn't living. This is dying slow, and I'm tired of waiting for death to catch up. Declan closes his eyes. 44 years old. Survived horrors Declan can't even imagine. And this place, this asylum that's supposed to heal people, broke him. There's more, Mateo says. The note was addressed to us, to the veterans still here. Said you are not crazy, you are prisoners. Fight or die fighting. But don't die waiting. Declan opens his eyes, stares at the frozen dirt beneath his feet. He's right, Declan says finally. We can't wait anymore. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we need to get word out to someone on the outside who'll listen. How they screen our letters, monitor visitors. Then we don't use letters and we don't wait for visitors. Declan stands up, faces Mateo. We find another way. An attendant is walking toward them. They separate casually like the conversation never happened. But something has been set in motion. Robert Lee Washington didn't die for nothing. His death, his final act of resistance, is about to become the spark that lights a fire. That night, Declan can't sleep. He lies on his bed listening to the sounds of 30 men breathing and thinks about mathematics. How many men are in this asylum? 400, maybe more. How many are veterans? If Ward C is representative 15 out of 30, that's 50%. 200 veterans. How many are wrongfully committed? How many are like him, thrown away because they got old or injured or inconvenient? And if Bloomingdale is doing this, how many other asylums across New York are doing the same? Across America. If there are 50 asylums in New York State, a conservative estimate, and each one houses 400 patients, that's 20,000 people. If half are veterans, that's 10,000 men who fought for their country and are now imprisoned by it. And their pensions. $30 per month times 10,000 men equals $300,000 per month. $3.6 million per year. Money that's supposed to go to disabled veterans and their families. Money that's being stolen, legally stolen, by declaring the veterans insane. Declan feels sick. This isn't just about him. This isn't even just about Bloomingdale. Someone needs to know. Someone needs to expose this. But who and how Declan thinks about Cormac's visit. His son is asking around, gathering information. But that's not enough. They need proof, documentation, something undeniable. And Declan knows where that proof is: Dr. Blackwell's office. The medical director keeps files on every patient, admission records, financial ledgers, correspondence with the Board of Governors. If Declan could get his hands on those files, if he could somehow smuggle them out to someone who'd publicize them. The thought is interrupted by a sound, soft at first, then louder. Someone is weeping. Declan looks around in the darkness. Can't tell who it is. Could be anyone. The weeping continues. Quiet, broken sobs. A sound so common now it's almost become part of the asylum's architecture, like the cracking plaster and the smell of unwashed bodies. No one moves to comfort the man. No one speaks. They've all learned showing weakness invites attention. And attention here is never good. Declan closes his eyes. The answer comes from an unexpected source. 2 weeks later, just before Christmas, Declan is summoned to Dr. Blackwell's office. This is unusual. Patients don't get called to the director's office unless something is very wrong. Declan is escorted by 2 attendants, which only increases his anxiety. They walk through parts of the asylum he's never seen. Administrative corridors with actual carpeting walls, without cracks, windows without bars. This is where the staff works, where decisions get made, where the business of warehousing humans is conducted in comfort. They reach a heavy wooden door. One attendant knocks. Enter, comes Dr. Blackwell's voice. The office is exactly what Declan expected: dark wood furniture, leather chairs, a massive desk covered in neat stacks of papers. Behind the desk, Dr. Blackwell sits with his hands folded, his expression unreadable. But there's someone else in the room. A woman, 30 years old maybe, dressed in practical clothing, a simple skirt, cotton blouse, sturdy boots. She's holding a notebook and pencil. Her eyes meet Declan's and something passes between them. A flash of recognition, not that they know each other, but that they're both aware this moment matters. Mr. Brennan, Dr. Blackwell says. This is Miss Elizabeth Moreau. She's a journalist from the New York Tribune. She's writing an article about our facilities here at Bloomingdale. A journalist. Declan's heart starts racing. Miss Moreau, Blackwell continues, would like to interview some of our patients to get their perspectives on the care they receive here. I've selected you as one of our more articulate residents. The trap is obvious. Blackwell has chosen Declan precisely because he expects Declan to behave, to say the right things, to be a good example of how well the asylum treats its inmates. If Declan complains if he tells the truth, Blackwell will simply say, "See, delusional, paranoid, exactly the kind of thinking that necessitates his confinement." But if Declan stays silent, if he plays along, he loses maybe his only chance to get word out. Elizabeth Moreau is watching him. Her pencil is poised over the notebook. Declan makes a decision. Miss Moreau, he says carefully, I'd be happy to answer your questions. Blackwell smiles. It doesn't reach his eyes. Excellent. I'll leave you two alone. Miss Moreau, please let me know if Mr. Brennan becomes agitated or incoherent. We can continue the interview at another time. He stands, walks to the door, pauses. Oh, and Mr. Brennan, I trust you'll give Miss Moreau an accurate picture of life here at Bloomingdale. The threat is clear. Accuracy will be punished. Blackwell leaves. The door closes. Declan and Elizabeth are alone. She doesn't speak immediately. Instead, she stands, walks to the door, opens it slightly, and checks the hallway. Empty. She closes the door, returns to her chair, leans forward. When she speaks, her voice is low and urgent. Mr. Brennan, I don't have much time. Dr. Blackwell will be back in 10 minutes, so I need you to listen very carefully. Declan nods. I'm not writing a puff piece about this asylum. I'm investigating wrongful commitments, pension fraud, systematic abuse. But I need proof. I need witnesses willing to testify. I need documentation. Declan's breath catches. You know. I know some of it. A veteran's son came to my editor 3 weeks ago, said his father was committed after complaining about working conditions, said the family's pension was revoked. My editor told him to go away, thought he was a crank. But you didn't. I started digging, found 12 similar cases in 6 months, all veterans, all committed for vague reasons, all had their pensions revoked. Her eyes are fierce. This isn't isolated. This is systematic. It's worse than you think, Declan says. There are at least 200 veterans in this asylum alone, maybe more across the state. The math on that pension money, Elizabeth is writing furiously. I need names, dates, specifics. I can get them. There's a filing cabinet in the medical records room, patient intake forms, financial ledgers. Can you access them? No, but I know someone who can. Elizabeth looks up. Who? A staff attendant, man named Silas Kane. He's sympathetic. Might help if we ask. Why would he risk it? Because he's a veteran too, and he's seen enough. Elizabeth closes her notebook, stands. I'm going to be back next week for a follow-up visit. Dr. Blackwell won't think anything of it. He wants this article written. But I need you to get me something concrete by then. Can you do that? Declan stands too. For the first time in months, he feels something other than despair. He feels purpose. I can do that. Elizabeth extends her hand. Declan shakes it. Mr. Brennan, she says quietly, I can't promise I can get you out, but I can promise I'll make sure people know what happened here. That's all I'm asking. The door opens. Dr. Blackwell returns right on schedule. Well, he says cheerfully, I trust the interview was productive. Very, Elizabeth says smoothly. Mr. Brennan has been most helpful. Excellent. Mr. Brennan, you may return to your ward. The attendants escort Declan out. As he walks back through the administrative corridors, through the locked doors, back into the stone and iron, and despair of Ward C. Declan's mind is racing. He has 7 days to get the evidence. 7 days to convince Silas Kane to commit treason against the institution that employs him. 7 days to pull off something that could either free 200 men or get Declan thrown into isolation for the rest of his life. Robert Lee Washington's words echo in his mind, fight or die fighting. Declan chooses to fight. 7 days. Declan has 7 days to steal evidence from Dr. Blackwell's office and smuggle it to a journalist without getting caught. The first challenge is getting to Silas Kane without arousing suspicion. But Declan has one advantage. Even though Blackwell discontinued most work programs, he kept the carpentry shop running. The asylum needs furniture repaired. Declan is still assigned 2 hours a day in the shop, and Silas Kane still supervises. On the second day after meeting Elizabeth Moreau, Declan makes his move. He's sanding a table leg when Kane walks by to inspect the work. Declan doesn't look up, keeps his voice low. "I need to talk to you about Robert Washington." Kane's hands still for just a moment. Then he continues his inspection, voice equally quiet. "What about him?" "His suicide note. Did you read it?" "I did." "Then you know we're running out of time. Men are dying in here, not from illness, from hopelessness." Kane picks up the table leg, examining it closely. To anyone watching, it's just a supervisor checking quality. "What do you want me to do about it?" Kane asks. "There's a journalist, Elizabeth Moreau from the Tribune. She's investigating wrongful commitments, pension fraud, but she needs proof. And you think I'm going to help you steal files from Blackwell's office? It's not a question. I think you're going to help 200 veterans get justice." Kane sets down the table leg, looks at Declan directly for the first time. "You know what they'll do to me? If we're caught, same thing they'll do to me. You're already locked up. I've got a job, a pension coming when I retire, a life outside these walls." "How do you sleep at night?" Declan asks. "Knowing what's happening here." The question hangs in the air between them. Kane's jaw tightens. For a long moment, he doesn't speak. "Then my daughter had a baby last year. Boy, healthy, beautiful. Her husband's a good man, works in a factory." Declan doesn't understand where this is going, but he stays quiet. "Last month," Kane continues, "the factory had layoffs. My son-in-law got let go. He's 32 years old, strong, willing to work, but there are no jobs. And he's starting to drink, starting to get angry." Kane picks up a piece of sandpaper, runs his thumb across it. "I look at him, and I see every man in this asylum. Men who were one bad month away from being here. One injury, one layoff, one moment of desperation." He looks at Declan. "You want to know how I sleep at night? I don't. Not well. Not anymore." "Then help me." Kane is silent for another long moment. Then he nods. Just once. Barely perceptible. "What do you need?" The plan comes together over the next 3 days. Declan reconnects with Matteo during outdoor recreation. "We're going to need a distraction," Declan says, pretending to examine a crack in the yard's brick wall. Matteo stands nearby, facing away. "What kind of distraction?" "Something that pulls the night attendants away from the administrative wing. 10 minutes. That's all we need." "I can start a fight. Ward B's got plenty of guys who'd throw punches if I asked." "Too obvious. They'd lock down the whole asylum." Matteo thinks. "Flooding, the third floor privy. Those pipes are old. If someone were to say stuff rags down the drain and let the water run, it'd overflow. They'd have to shut off the water main, get mops, clean it up." "Exactly, all hands on deck for at least 20 minutes. Saturday, fewest staff on duty." Saturday it is. The third piece of the plan is Ezekiel Miller. Kane arranges for Declan to help move furniture to the 4th floor. They carry a table up 4 flights of stairs. Kane leads Declan to Ezekiel's ward. Ezekiel is sitting by a window watching pigeons. Declan taps his shoulder. The old man turns, face lighting up. Declan writes, "Need your help. Saturday night, can you feel vibrations through the floor?" Ezekiel nods vigorously, points to his feet, then to the floor. Declan writes, "We're stealing files from Blackwell's office. Stomp if guards coming." Ezekiel's eyes widen. Then he grins, takes the pencil, writes about damn time. Saturday, December 21st, 1867, the longest night of the year. At 2 in the morning, Matteo floods the 3rd floor privy. While attendants rush to deal with the water, Kane unlocks the administrative wing door and lets Declan inside. Ezekiel, positioned on the 4th floor with a clear view of the main staircase, will stomp 3 times if guards approach. Declan has 15 minutes to find evidence. He reaches Blackwell's office. The door is unlocked to Kane's work. He slips inside. 4 tall filing cabinets line the back wall. Declan goes to the left cabinet first, pulls open the top drawer. Patient intake forms. Hundreds of them. He starts pulling files, veterans, wrongful commitments, vague diagnoses. His own file, Declan Brennan, age 51, diagnosis acute melancholia with violent tendencies. A note clipped to the Facebook, patient's employer has agreed to cover commitment costs for first 6 months. His employer paid to have him locked up. Into the canvas sack. Matteo's file, Mateo Torres, age 29, diagnosis homicidal mania secondary to racial inferiority complex. Into the sack, he moves to the financial ledgers, opens the most recent volume. County reimbursement $2 per patient per week. Current census 427. Weekly revenue $854. Patient labor value $167 per week. Visitor admission fees $94 per week. Then payment received from Manhattan Dock Company, $312 for 6-month housing of patient D. Brennan. Finally, pension intercepts. The page lists 47 names, veterans whose pensions were revoked upon commitment. Mateo Torres, $540 lost to date. Jacob Hennessy, $475. Samuel Green, $900. 47 veterans averaging $30 per month over 18 months. $25,000 in stolen pension money. Just from this asylum. Declan is ripping pages when he hears it. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Ezekiel's warning, guards coming. Declan shoves ledger pages into his sack, grabs 3 more patient files, closes cabinet drawers, footsteps in the hallway. Close, under the desk. Declan drops to his knees, crawls into the space beneath Blackwell's desk, pulls the chair in. The door opens. 2 sets of boots enter. Check the file cabinets. Drawers opening, closing. Looks fine. Blackwell's paranoid. One guard sits in Blackwell's chair, right above Declan. We're going to be here all night cleaning up that flood. No, 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 stomp, 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 stomp. 5 stomps, Ezekiel changing the signal, creating a new distraction. The hell is that? 4th floor, one of the old-timers. The stomping continues, rhythmic, insistent. Fine, let's go see. They leave. Declan waits 30 seconds, then crawls out, grabs the sack and runs. Back through the corridor, up the stairs, through the maintenance door. Silas Kane is waiting. Did you get it? Declan holds up the sack. Everything. Then get back to your ward. Now. Declan makes it back just as the night attendant wakes. Took you long enough? Sorry, stomach trouble. Declan climbs into bed, shoves the canvas sack under his mattress. His heart is still racing, but he did it. Now he just has to survive until Elizabeth Moreau's next visit. Elizabeth returns on Wednesday, December 25th, Christmas Day. Same setup. Blackwell introduces her, leaves them alone. But this time, Elizabeth doesn't waste time. Checks the hallway, locks the door. Show me. Declan produces the canvas sack. Elizabeth spreads the contents across Blackwell's desk. Patient files, ledger pages. She reads in silence for 5 minutes. Her hands tighten on the papers. This is worse than I thought. How bad? If this is happening here, it's happening everywhere. She starts organizing papers. I can publish this. 3 weeks, maybe 4. I might not have 4 weeks. He won't find out. Elizabeth pulls out a leather satchel, starts transferring documents. I'm taking the originals. There's a knock. Miss Moreau, Blackwell's voice. The door appears to be locked. Elizabeth mouths, stall him. She crosses to the window behind Blackwell's desk, opens it. Just a moment, Dr. Blackwell, I'm reviewing my notes. She drops the satchel out the window. Soft thud outside. Elizabeth closes the window, unlocks the door. Blackwell enters, suspicious. Why was the door locked? Force of habit, doctor. I work in some rough neighborhoods. And you, Mr. Brennan, has the interview been satisfactory? Very satisfactory, sir. Good. Guards will escort you back. Declan catches Elizabeth's eye. She gives the smallest nod. We did it. The waiting is agony. Days become weeks. Christmas passes. New Year arrives 1868. Every morning, Declan expects guards to drag him to isolation. Every night, he wonders if Elizabeth will actually publish. The only thing keeping him sane is his connection with Mateo and Ezekiel. During outdoor recreation, they gather near the north wall. If the story breaks, Mateo says quietly, Blackwell will try to discredit it. Then we need witnesses. Families, Ezekiel writes. Moreau can find them, Declan says. She's got names from those files. January 15th, 1868. Silas Kane appears in the carpentry shop doorway. His face is white. She published it. Declan's hand still. What? Kane pulls out a folded newspaper. Declan reads, in the shadow of our nation's capital, while politicians debate pension rights, a quieter crime is being committed. Across New York State, veterans are being systematically committed to asylums, not for medical reasons, but for economic convenience. 8,000 words documenting everything. Elizabeth interviewed 40 families, tracked down doctors who signed commitment papers, calculated the total theft $1.5 million per year. She named names. including Dr. Ambrose Blackwell. She published photographs. The final paragraph, these men built our railroads, loaded our ships, fought our wars, and when they became inconvenient, we made them disappear. We called them mad. We took their freedom, their dignity, and their money, and we did it all legally. The question is, what will we do about it? How are people reacting? Declan asks. Tribune sold out in 2 hours. There's talk of a federal investigation. And Blackwell, locked in his office. But Declan, he knows the information came from inside. He's going to start looking. Let him look. The retaliation comes that afternoon. Guards appear in Ward C. Brennan, Torres, Miller, on your feet. They're marched to isolation. 6 by 6 cells, stone walls, no windows. The door slams, locks, complete darkness. Declan sits on cold stone and realizes this is Blackwell's response. He might die here, but the story is out. Elizabeth published it. The silence is broken, and sometimes breaking silence is worth dying for. Declan loses track of time. No light, no contact. Food once a day, maybe through a slot in the door. He counts breaths, counts heartbeats, counts imaginary conversations with Maeve. Then footsteps, multiple people, voices. The lock turns, light floods in blinding. 3 figures in the doorway. Elizabeth Moreau, a man in an expensive suit, gray-haired, authoritative. Silas Kane. The suited man speaks, Mr. Declan Brennan. That's me. Theodore Brennan, Federal Circuit Judge. No relation, though. The coincidence is notable. He steps in. I've reviewed Miss Moreau's article and the documents. I have questions. I'll answer whatever you want. Good. In 3 days, I'm convening a federal hearing. I'd like you to testify. I'm locked in a cell. Judge Brennan smiles. Not kind, the smile of someone who enjoys crushing opponents. Doctor, Blackwell no longer has authority over your release. As of 2 hours ago, I issued a writ of habeas corpus for you, Mr. Torres and Mr. Miller. You're free men. Free, after 1 year, 10 months, and 8 days. Free. What about the others? Declan asks. The other veterans. If your testimony supports Miss Moreau's reporting, I'll issue writs for every wrongfully committed veteran in New York State. The judge pauses. But I need you to stand up in federal court and tell your story. Can you do that? Declan thinks about Robert Lee Washington, about the 47 names in that ledger, about every veteran still sitting on benches in Ward C. Your Honor, Declan says, I've been wanting to tell this story for almost 2 years. Try and stop me. Federal Court, Southern District of New York, January 23rd, 1868. The courtroom is packed. Journalists, families, 5 Tribune reporters. Dr. Ambrose Blackwell sits with his attorneys. Fear in his eyes. Declan takes the witness stand. Clean clothes. Bathed, shaved, haircut. Almost human again. Judge Brennan presides. Mr. Brennan, please state your full name and occupation. Declan William Brennan, dock worker, veteran Union Army, 69th Infantry. How long were you confined at Bloomingdale? 1 year, 10 months, and 8 days. Were you receiving treatment for genuine mental illness? Declan looks directly at Blackwell. No, sir. I was imprisoned for being inconvenient. Courtroom erupts. Gavel bangs. Order Mr. Brennan explain. For 3 hours, Declan tells his story. The sitting, the restraints, the treatments, the men who died waiting, the pension fraud, $25,000 stolen from one asylum. Robert Lee Washington's suicide note. When he finishes, silence. Mr. Brennan, final statement. Your Honor, I'm 53 years old, worked 34 years building this city, fought at Gettysburg, raised 3 children, buried my wife while locked in that building, never getting to say goodbye. His voice doesn't shake. I am not insane. I never was. I was just a man who got old and got hurt and got thrown away when I stopped being useful. There are 200 men still in Bloomingdale with the same story, thousands across America. Men who built the railroads, dug the canals, fought the wars. And when we broke down, this country didn't fix us. It hit us. You want to know if I'm bitter? I am. Angry? I am. But more than that, I'm determined. Because every day those men are still locked up is another day America breaks its promise. We were promised that hard work would be rewarded, that military service would be honored, that if we gave everything, we'd be taken care of. Those were lies, beautiful lies. But maybe we can make them true. That's all I want, just what we were promised. Declan steps down. Applause erupts forbidden in federal court. Judge Brennan doesn't stop it. The court will now hear from Mr. Mateo Torres. Mateo takes the stand, empty left sleeve pinned neatly. State your military service record. United States Army 1861 to 1863, sharpshooter, Medal of Honor Antietam. Murmurs. Describe the circumstances. Confederate sharpshooter targeting my colonel. I pushed him out of the way. Took the minia ball, lost the arm, saved the colonel, got the medal. On after the war, went home to Texas. Got into an altercation with an officer who used a racial slur. I just buried 6 men. I was tired. I was angry. I was human. What did you do? Punched him once. Broke his nose. And then and 2 doctors showed up, examined me, maybe 10 minutes, said I had homicidal mania secondary to racial inferiority. Mateo pulls out his commitment form. It says Mexicans are naturally prone to violent outbursts due to primitive brain development. That my service exacerbated an already inferior mental capacity. He looks at the judge. Your Honor, I learned to read and write in English and Spanish by age 7. I can field strip a rifle blindfolded, calculate windage for a 1,000-yard shot in my head, taught myself carpentry with one arm. But because I punched a racist officer after burying my friends, I spent 3 years in Bloomingdale. Lost my pension, over $1,000 they stole. What would you like this court to do? Mateo looks at Blackwell. I want my pension reinstated, with interest. I want every robbed veteran to get the same. And I want these doctors stripped of their licenses. Is that all? No, sir. I want an apology from the United States government for taking men who bled for this country and treating us like we were worth less than the paper our discharge papers were printed on. Silence. Thank you, Mr. Torres. Mateo stands, grips Declan's shoulder as he passes. Brothers, still. During recess, a young man approaches Declan, maybe 25, well-dressed. Mr. Brennan, I'm Josiah Miller, Ezekiel Miller's grandson. Declan's face softens. How is he? He passed 4 years ago, 1884. Pneumonia. I'm sorry, he was a good man. He talked about you constantly. Josiah hands Declan an envelope. He wrote this in 1879. Made me promise I'd find you. Declan opens it. Dear Declan, if you're reading this, I'm dead. You gave me back my dignity. That night we stole those files. The heist was the first time in 6 years I felt like a soldier again. Like I mattered. I was 65 when they put me in that place. Deaf old useless. My family couldn't afford to keep me. I understood even if it hurt. But I thought I'd die there. Then you showed up, you and Mateo and Silas. You said, we need you. Do you know what that meant, to be needed again? I got out because of what you did. Lived another 16 years. Saw my grandson grow up. Saw great-grandchildren born. Died in my own bed surrounded by family. You gave me that, so thank you. You didn't just save 200 veterans, you saved me. When you get to wherever soldiers go, look me up. First round's on me. Ezekiel Miller, Private U.S. Army, Shiloh survivor, Bloomingdale survivor. Declan reads it twice, eyes blurring. He loved you, Josiah says, talked about you like family. He was family, we all were. They shake hands. Thank you, Mr. Brennan. My grandfather died free because of you. 3 weeks later, Judge Brennan orders immediate release of 47 veterans wrongfully committed at Bloomingdale. Mandates Veterans Bureau restore all withheld pensions with interest. Dr. Ambrose Blackwell, stripped of medical license, charged with fraud, flees to Canada. Furthermore, Dr. Howard Blackwell, who signed initial commitment papers for Mr. Brennan and 43 other veterans, is hereby disbarred from medical practice in New York State. A warrant for his arrest has been issued. He has fled to Montreal. Extradition proceedings will begin. Congress passes the Veterans Commitment Reform Act of 1868. 2 independent physicians must certify insanity. Patients have right to legal representation. Annual reviews of all commitments. Federal oversight of pension revocations. Not perfect, but progress. Declan walks out of court a free man, waiting Cormac, Bridget, Sean, his children. They embrace, all 4 holding each other. Cormac crying, Pa, I should have fought harder. You did exactly what you needed to do. You survived. You kept the family together. Ma didn't make it. That pain will never heal. But right now, standing on courthouse steps, winter sun on his face, right now is enough. 23 years later, New York City, 1891. Declan Brennan is 76, back bent from 34 years of dock work and almost 2 years on wooden benches. Leg still aches with Confederate shrapnel. But he's alive. He's spent 23 years fighting, testifying, speaking, writing, refusing to let America forget. Today's ceremony unveiling a memorial at the old Bloomingdale site, now a park. Bronze plaque listing names of veterans who died in asylums between 1840 to 1890. 2,347 names. Mateo Torres is there 63, still strong, labor organizer now. Ezekiel Miller died in 1884, but his grandson represents the family. Elizabeth Moreau, 61, still writing. Silas Kane lived until 1888. Published a memoir about his 12 years in the asylum system. Required reading in medical schools now. The ceremony ends. People scatter. Declan doesn't leave immediately. He reads names. Robert Lee Washington, Patrick O'Reilly, Jacob Hennessy. Then he walks to the far edge of the park, Potter's Field, where they bury the poor, the forgotten. He stops at a marker 48 when she died, worked herself to death while her husband rotted 5 miles away. Declan kneels, places a white rose. Hello, Maeve. Quiet. No one around. I know it's been a while, 24 years. I'm sorry I wasn't there. Sorry you died thinking I'd abandoned you. That's the part that'll never heal. Not the asylum, not the torture, not the stolen years. It's knowing you died alone thinking I didn't care. He touches the stone. Cold. But I need you to know something. I got out, Maeve. Took almost 2 years, but I got out. And I didn't just survive, I fought back. Changed the laws. Freed 200 men. Spent 23 years making sure it couldn't happen as easily to others. Wind rustles overhead. Cormac's doing well. Has 3 children now, our grandchildren. Strong kids. Smart. They ask about you. I tell them you could sew a dress from scraps, how you sang while you worked, how you never complained, even though life was hard. Pause. Swallows. I tell them you were the strongest person I ever knew. You held that family together while I was gone. You worked yourself to death, keeping a roof over their heads. And I wasn't there to help. Wasn't there to tell you it would be okay. Wasn't there to hold you when you got sick. Voice breaks. I'm sorry, Maeve. I'm so goddamn sorry. Long moment. Breathing. But I kept fighting, like you taught me. Remember when Cormac was born, labor took 18 hours. You nearly died. Afterward, you looked at me and said, Brennans don't quit. We fight till there's nothing left to fight for. Smiles despite tears. Well, my girl, I fought. And I won, not just for me. For every man who got thrown away. For every family torn apart. For everyone told their suffering didn't matter. Stand slowly, knees creaking. I'll be with you soon. Not today, but soon. And when I get there, I hope you'll forgive me for taking so long to come home. Touches the stone one last time. Sleep well, Maeve. Your Declan kept his word. He kept fighting, and he won. Turns, walks back toward the memorial. Behind him, a white rose on a weathered grave. A promise kept. 24 years late. A young man approaches, maybe 25. Journalist based on the Notebook. Mr. Brennan writing about the anniversary of the asylum reform laws. Can I ask a question? Go ahead. Do you think we've solved the problem? The warehousing of inconvenient Americans. Declan looks at him, points across the park to the Manhattan skyline. You see those buildings? Someone's going to build them. Someone's going to maintain them. Someone's going to break their body doing that. And when those someones get old, get injured, get expensive, what do you think happens? The journalist doesn't answer. We didn't solve the problem. We just moved it, changed the names, made it look different. In my time, they called it an asylum. In your time, maybe you'll call it something else. But the impulse is the same. Hide the people who remind us the system breaks people. So what's the answer? The answer is what it's always been. Keep telling the truth. Keep refusing to look away. Keep reminding comfortable people that their comfort is built on someone else's suffering. Touches the bronze plaque. These men died in the dark. We drag their stories into the light. That's all we can do. Tell the stories. Remember the names. Make sure the next generation knows the cost of forgetting. Turns to leave. Mr. Brennan, do you think your grandchildren will have to fight this same fight? Declan stops, looks back. I know they will, because the fight doesn't end, it just changes shape. But here's what gives me hope. I survived. Mateo survived. We got out, we told our story, and because we did, 2,000 veterans got released, laws got changed, lives got saved. So when my grandchildren face their version of this, and they'll know it can be beaten. They'll know that ordinary people telling the truth is stronger than powerful people telling lies. That's the promise I'm keeping. Not the one America made to me, the one I'm making to them. Walks away. Behind him, 2,347 names engraved in bronze. Witnesses, reminders, ghosts who refuse to be forgotten. You're 72 years old now. You remember when promises meant something. Declan Brennan was 51 when they locked him up, 53 when he got out. He lived another 38 years fighting to make sure it never happened again. You've got time, you've got voice, you've got memories of how things used to be. Use them, because somewhere right now there's a veteran sleeping under a bridge, a factory worker being told we need younger people, a son visiting his father in a place he shouldn't be. They're waiting for someone to see them, to believe them, to fight for them. Declan waited almost 2 years for someone to care. How long will you wait to be that someone? The promise is broken, but the fight to keep it, that fight never ends. And it's your turn now.